Hey guys, it's Adam from Loose Pixel, and I'm coming to you with a little bit of an impulsive reactionary video. Impulsive as in, I haven't set anything up and I'm still in my gym clothes. I just got back from the gym. But, so I should be a little calmer than normal. But I think it's time I finally speak my mind about something. Because of the position that I'm in, both as a father and as a teacher, an art teacher, who comes from, and it might be important to mention, who comes from an entire family of educators. My grandmother, my mother, all teachers, teachers in computer science, teachers in fine arts, teachers in general. I have it in my DNA, so to speak. And to me, learning art and teaching art is my greatest passion in life. I am a very strong advocate for education. But I'm taking a stance today. And that stance is that I no longer support the traditional art education system. Not in its entirety, but in very large part. And I think I have enough experience on the matter, and I've heard enough stories from enough people that it's time that somebody puts their foot down and says that the traditional school system, the brick and mortar art school system, in so many different locations, in so many different places, are completely doing the opposite of what their intended purpose is. You have to put things into perspective. People who go into art school are getting into art school because they have a passion, because they have an identity, because they've grown up being people who identified as being artists, who want to make a career out of it, who are willing to make the sacrifices and go through the punches that are necessary to prove themselves and to make a name for themselves and to make a living for themselves doing what it is that they love. And it comes at a sacrifice. So they're already walking in with very high expectations and high personal, high standards. They come in with very high standards as is. And I've watched time and time again how, after a couple years of the traditional art school system, their dreams are completely crushed. They're crushed because whatever bureaucrat or bureaucrats are at the head of these educational institutions, whoever's running things, and how that has a trickle-down effect on the teachers, and ultimately, of course, it always falls on the heads of the students, believe or are trying to fool artists, young, impressionable artists, into believing that in order to succeed, by the time they hit the age of 22, they should be completely emotionally and neurologically burned out. Beyond what's even imaginably reasonable. And I had a long conversation with somebody very dear to me today, who is probably one of the most talented, passionate, born to be artists I've ever known. She's just like, I wish I had 1/20th of her ambition and her perseverance and her dedication, because I know so many students, so many artists that are almost or very often justifiably just don't have that level of ambition. They just want to hang out with their friends and do stuff, and they don't necessarily have the drive to commit to school being a full-time job. And this artist in particular that I had a long conversation with, she's the real deal. She's somebody who's willing to sacrifice everything, despite how much she loves being with her friends, despite everybody that she misses, despite not being able to be with her family all the time that she'd love to. She's somebody who's absolutely willing and ready to make the sacrifice to get the best education and the best marks that she can get. And the system that she's in right now, a Canadian school system, which is supposed to be a pretty high standard for education, is, on all accounts, it almost seems like they're trying to systematically destroy her dreams. Just to start you off, I'm an artist. I know exactly what goes into producing artwork, the amount of time and energy and focus that goes into teaching and into learning. And even in my mentorship, it's an ambitious enough mentorship. I mean, when I sit down with my students, I'm feeding a lot of information But I am very much an advocate for balanced learning, for slow burning learning, for focused learning, for exploring things and analyzing every aspect of something and giving a student and myself the time to be able to really breathe into the act of creating a work of art and really focusing and producing something of quality. And that's where really rich, deep learning comes in. And I've always found it to be extremely lazy teaching to say, practice, 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 just go, go, go. That's lazy teaching. That's basically me spewing some fundamental, just regurgitating something they read from a textbook and then saying, do that 600 times and you'll get good at art. That's lazy teaching. That's not what goes into really, really teaching somebody how to understand something. You want to learn about color? You want to learn about color harmony? There's a whole facet of learning that goes into light and dynamic range and the value structure and color editing and harmony. There's all these rich different, subcategories of things that you can delve into. But there's no way in hell I could ever manage to teach, and furthermore, no way in hell that a student could manage to learn if I threw so much work at them that they're just trying to survive to the end of the week to get it done. And this friend of mine who's going through the educational system right now has 11 courses, all of which are demanding hours and hours and hours worth of assignments to get done every week. And I'm watching this artist, this young woman, who is somebody who's generally full of energy and full of excitement and full of passion and full of talent. And I'm looking at her and I was having a conversation with her and she looked like she wanted to, I asked her how she was doing and she looked like she was going to break down into tears. And I said, what's going on? How are you doing? I didn't know why she was looking so upset. She goes, I'm just overwhelmed. And somebody who was up all night doing homework and then goes back home, has a part-time job, and then goes back and draws. And I said, how are you managing? She goes, I'm just trying to make it to the finish line. And I said, but where's the quality? Like, do you feel like you're learning well? I think I'm kind of finding a little bit of growth just through the sheer volume of work that I have to do. And not only that, but all of these extra prerequisite courses that she has to take that have absolutely zero. I'm looking at those courses going, how the hell does that feed the kind of career she's after? None of it. I'd say like 40 to 50% of this bullshit that she has to learn is completely irrelevant to her career. I'm not even talking about skills she didn't think were relevant, but actually are relevant. No, I'm talking about irrelevant garbage filler education. Under the guise of, we're trying to push you to reach your maximum potential. Well, this is where a 45-year-old educator who's worked in the traditional school system, who runs his own school, and who's also a father, who has a lot of empathy for younger students who are completely discouraged. The email I got from somebody who said they wanted to sign up for my mentorship because they said they've been in like several years of school and they feel they haven't learned a goddamn thing, despite all of the effort and the energy. And just hearing a bunch of depressed, tired, discouraged, burnt out 20-year-olds. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, you idiots need to get your shit together. And I'm talking to the general education system, the brick and mortar education system. You need to get your shit together. You are screwing up. Your job is to motivate, educate, empower. You're doing the complete frickin' opposite. You are screwing up at your job. And whether I don't think it's the teacher's fault. I've been a teacher in the traditional educational system. These teachers are passionate, they're dedicated. These teachers are burning themselves out, trying to stay up until 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, trying to be able to help every one of their students, which is an unbelievable task to do. I've done it. But these teachers deserve 7-figure salaries, in my humble opinion. But these bureaucratic douchebags running the show, mandating the curriculum, have zero connection to what it's like being a student, grinding through, trying to make it to the finish line just so they can get some stupid little bullshit diploma that is going to serve zero zero value in their life. I have a piece of paper. Where is it? I don't know. I stored it away in some box around 20 years ago. Nobody's ever asked me for it. Nobody ever cared. It's a complete piece of shit. It's never served me any value. And I just see more and more that these educational systems, these schools, are just piling more and more and more and more and more work on top of these poor kids' heads. And the only thing it's serving is trying to mentally prepare these students for a life of hell. And what I'm here to tell you is that attitude does permeate into the industry. I've heard so, and it's funny, I had a conversation with one of my students just this week, talking about how conflicted she was with the philosophy, with the education that I was giving her, because she's heard from other well-known artists on the platform, other YouTubers and stuff like that, almost the polar opposite of what I teach. I teach about, yes, consistency, yes, hard work, yes, focus, yes, passion, yes, dedication, but balance, healthy lifestyle, taking care of your body, not working 7 hours a day, getting up and moving, taking care of your mind, taking care of your diet, taking care of your sleep, not filling somebody's head with just keep pounding information on top of them until they're just a bloody pulp on the ground. No. Giving somebody a really good dose of inspiring information and then letting them ride with it, see where they can take it. That kind of educating. And it's the opposite. You're doing the absolute opposite of it. And there's YouTubers that advocate for this bullshit as well. If you want to survive in the industry, it's survival of the fittest, buddy. And if you're not willing to work 12 hours a day, then you know what? There's a lot of people that are lined up for your job that are more qualified than you. You know what I have to say to online art influencers who have that philosophy? I can summarize my opinion of that form of teaching in 2 words. 1 and 2. Your advice is bullshit. Your advice is elitist. Your advice is discouraging. Your advice is meant, since you managed to get that fancy job, you're going to use that fancy job to make everybody under you feel like a bunch of underlings, incompetents. You're not educating. You're not inspiring. You're a bully. Okay? And you're making everybody else feel small under you. And me, who runs a school, who's booked solid until 2026 because I'm so successful, don't support that bullshit message. I also don't support this bullshit educational system that thinks that burning people out, piling work on top of them, just when they're already drowning, you hand them a cinder block just to watch them sink. You think that's educating? No. You're destroying dreams. And what's really ironic about this is that they're paying you for it. What's really, I'm so upset I'm shaking right now. I'm so upset I'm shaking right now. We're artists. We're not factory workers. We're not machines. Art requires every part of the individual to create it. It requires technical skill. It requires passion. It requires focus. It requires thoughtfulness. It requires emotion. It requires a spiritual sense, a connection with Mother Earth. And what these educational systems and what these elitist online influencers are doing are trying to industrialize the human mind and the human heart. And that's why so many artists out there feel like they're alienated. So many artists out there feel like they're incompetent. Because they feel, well, I can't keep up with that. And the irony of all of this is that this attitude, this approach to art is so young. It's so new. It's, if you go back, I was raised in a family full of fine artists and illustrators growing up and stuff like that. I knew artists that would spend 6 months on a painting. They took their sweet ass time. Leonardo da Vinci, one of the most celebrated, studied artists on earth, who incidentally is also the inspiration behind my mentorship, the one-on-one mentorship, okay? Was asked the question by a client, how long do you think it's going to take you to complete this? And he says, it'll be done when it's done. And he expected people to respect the artist process. You want a masterpiece? You want to enjoy art from one of the greatest artists that have ever lived? Wait for it. Period. But not now. Now you work in studios and they'll pile work on you until it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm actually speaking from experience. And then when you get up to put your coat on because you have to leave, they look at it and they go, "All right, where are you going?" And you go, I've worked 12 hours a day consistently, or 14 hours a day consistently for the last 2 weeks, and I can't handle it anymore. I have a 5-minute lunch. I eat 1 meal a day at my desk because you just keep piling shit on top of me. And when you get up and you walk away because you decided you want to take care of your health for 1 minute out of your life, 1 day out of your life, you get fired the next day for it. And you got to sit back and go, I'm an artist. I'm an artist. And I'm being treated like an unruly factory worker who gets a commission for the number of units he can pump out. Whoa, how did we get here? And to not only have an industry that does this to artists, but then to get educational systems that do it to them as well, that prime them, that temper them in hellish working conditions so that they can get themselves mentally ready for an employment situation that is going to destroy them and destroy their bodies and their minds by the time they're 30 years old? No. That shit doesn't work anymore. And I think that unless somebody stands up and says something about it, this is just bullshit. But here's the thing. I bet a lot of you have been sitting here thinking to yourselves, oh, he's been dropping his mentorship every 5 seconds in this. He's just trying to promote his own school. Okay? He's just trying to plug his own school. Here's the irony of it. What I'm saying is actually detrimental. It's actually damaging to the success of my school. Because the better the educational system is, the less students I get. And I was not speaking hypothetically when I said, yes, I am booked solid until almost 2026. I'm literally booked solid until 2026. And that's all thanks to the educational system. I'm this successful. My school has kicked off and is this much of a hit because the educational system, the traditional brick and mortar educational system, is a complete period. So thanks. Keep doing what you're doing. And there's an old expression I love, never stop your enemies from making mistakes, right? But here's the thing. The educational system is not my enemy. I'm a product of it. I come from it. I'm an advocate for education. And when I was sitting at this cafe with this friend of mine who is completely, utterly burnt out, and I'm looking at this young woman just looking so discouraged. And as a father of a woman who's the same age, who's also in the educational system, I'm sitting there looking at her thinking to myself, what do I tell her? What do I tell her? Do I tell her, well, I don't believe in this. I don't believe in what they're doing, and I think that it's bullshit, and I think you should quit? What do I tell her? As a father, would I say that to my own child? Well, from the background I come from, it really goes against my it goes against my values to tell your child to drop out of school. But then what other option do I have? My other option is to tell her, well, take care of your health and do what you feel is right and trust your gut and rely on your talent. Because that's what my heart is saying. And I think that if I wasn't raised and tempered in this same system, then I would tell her to leave school because that's not a healthy environment. It's mentally preparing. It's training her to have a very unhealthy attitude and unhealthy relationship with hard work. And it's not hard work. It's slave work to the point where she's not going to last. If you have to sacrifice this much of your time and your sleep and you're sitting down crouched over a drawing tablet like this for God knows how long, your body's not going to last 5 years. You're going to be going into physiotherapy by the time you're 25 years old, and a lot of them are. And sleep deprivation is destroying her organs and her mind. Where's the lasting value to that kind of a system? So, what I think the solution is to this? I think the solution to this is Anthony Jones and Robot Pencil. It's Bobby Chu and schoolism. It's Ahmed Al-Duri. It's Mark Brunet. It's Tyler Edlin. It's Charles Bernard in Online Art Academy. It's Matt Core in Control Paint. It's Cynics. It's Ethan Becker. It's Clint Kearley. It's these online artists that are teaching art, teaching the right attitude about art, empowering artists, and offering them a platform to learn that is customizable, that is tailored to their own personal taste. They can get to know their teachers the way they want to get to know them. I think that this online world of art needs to grow. I am already beyond my ability to keep up with the demand. And I think that's a very good opportunity for a lot of you trained artists out there to start training yourself in teaching and start to pave the road for the education moving forward, because it's very clear that the educational system as it is the bureaucracy of the educational system is so knee deep in shit that they're already drowning in their own waste. And good riddance to bad rubbish. I think it's time for artists to reclaim their education, in my humble opinion. And that's my final statement on it. Thanks for listening. Take care.